What would you do if you wanted to turn a political rival, someone who publicly criticizes you, into a loyal supporter? Would you attack them back? Ignore them? Or maybe try to do something incredibly nice for them? In the 18th century, Benjamin Franklin, one of America's founding fathers, faced this exact situation. A rival legislator had delivered a long speech vehemently criticizing him. Franklin knew this animosity could damage his political career. But his solution defied all conventional logic. He didn't do a favor for the man. Instead, he did something almost unthinkable, something that completely transformed their relationship and revealed a psychological law so powerful it's just as relevant today. The question is, what did Franklin do? And how does that counterintuitive strategy hold the key for you to build stronger connections in your work, friendships, and life? Stick around, because what you're about to discover could change how you see human connection forever.
Most of us operate on a default paradigm, a deeply ingrained belief that to be liked, we must be the giver. We believe affection is something to be earned, with favors, compliments, and constant help. We become people pleasers, hoping our generosity will be reciprocated with fondness. This is the old paradigm. I do a favor for you, so you will like me. But this paradigm is deeply flawed. It puts us in a position of weakness. It turns relationships into transactions. And sometimes it can even backfire, making us seem desperate or manipulative. Now, let's go back to Benjamin Franklin. He knew the old paradigm, but he chose a different path. He had heard that his rival owned an extremely rare and valuable book. Instead of offering a gift, Franklin wrote a letter, expressing his admiration for the book and asking if he might borrow it for a few days. The man was, perhaps, surprised, but also flattered. He sent the book immediately. Franklin read it and returned it a week later with a sincere thank you note. The magic happened the next time they met at the Legislative House. The man approached Franklin and spoke to him with a civility he had never shown before. He ever after manifested a readiness to serve me on all occasions, Franklin wrote, so that we became great friends and our friendship continued to his death. This was the birth of the Ben Franklin effect, and it introduces a new paradigm, a groundbreaking psychological truth we call the favor paradox. You don't get people to like you by doing favors for them. You get them to like you by letting them do a favor for you. It sounds wrong, but it's backed by one of the most powerful mechanisms of the human mind.
The favor paradox, or the Ben Franklin effect, is the psychological phenomenon suggesting that a person who has performed a favor for someone is more likely to do another favor for that person than they would be if they had received a favor from them. Simply put, the act of helping someone causes us to like them more. This isn't just a historical anecdote. In the 1960s, psychologists John Jecker and David Landy decided to test it in a lab. In one experiment, participants won some money in a contest run by a researcher. Afterward, the researcher approached one group and said, "I'm using my own money for this research and I'm running short. As a favor to me, would you be willing to return the prize money?" Another group was asked by an unrelated secretary to return the money to the lab's research fund. A third group wasn't asked for anything. The results? The group that did a personal favor for the researcher, giving the money back to him, rated him as the most likable. They liked him significantly more than the people who weren't asked or who gave the money back to an impersonal institution. The experiment proved what Franklin had discovered intuitively. The act of giving the favor changed their own perception. But why? Why does our brain work in this strange way?
The answer lies in a foundational concept in psychology called cognitive dissonance. This is the state of mental tension or discomfort we experience when we hold two or more contradictory beliefs, ideas, or values, or when our actions contradict our beliefs. Our brain hates this conflict. It's like a wrong note in a symphony, and the brain will do whatever it can to resolve that tension and create harmony. Let's break this down in the context of the favor paradox. Let's say you have a neutral or slightly negative attitude toward a coworker named Alex. Initial belief: I don't particularly care for Alex. Then Alex asks you for a small favor. Could you glance at this presentation for a minute? I'd love your take on it. Because it's a small, reasonable request, you agree. Action: I just spent my time and energy helping Alex. Now your brain is facing a conflict, a dissonance. Conflict 1 is action: I helped Alex. Conflict 2 is belief: I don't really like Alex. Your brain can't go back in time and undo the action of helping. That's already happened. So to resolve the conflict, it has to change the belief. The path of least resistance is to adjust your thinking. Your brain begins an internal monologue. Why did I help Alex? Well, I'm not a pushover. I'm a good person. There must have been a reason I did that. Maybe Alex isn't so bad. In fact, it was nice of him to ask for my opinion. He respects me. He seems like a decent person. Resolution: new belief: I guess I actually like Alex. You see, you don't help them because you like them. You begin to like them because you helped them. Your action reshaped your belief. It's a powerful mechanism of self-persuasion. By doing someone a favor, we subconsciously justify our actions by deciding the person was worthy of our help and therefore a likable person.
Right now, a part of you might be thinking, isn't this just manipulation? This is a critically important question. The line between genuine connection building and manipulation lies in 3 factors: intent, scale, and sincerity. Intent: is your goal to start a positive loop of mutual respect, or is it to exploit someone for personal gain? If you're trying to forge a real bond, it's relationship building. If you're trying to trick them into doing something big for you, it's manipulation. Scale: the Ben Franklin effect works best with small asks. Borrowing a book, asking for advice, help holding a door, or an opinion on a minor issue. A request that is too large won't create cognitive dissonance. It will just create resentment and a feeling of being used. Sincerity: your request must come from a place of genuine need or curiosity. People can sense insincerity. When you ask for someone's opinion, actually listen. When you thank them, actually be grateful. Sincerity is the bridge that turns this technique into a true connection. Another question is, what if they say no? If your request is small and reasonable enough, the chances of refusal are very low. But if it happens, don't worry. Your reaction is key. Simply say, "No problem, thanks anyway," and move on. It shows you respect their time and weren't dependent on the help.
So why does this matter so much? Because understanding and applying the favor paradox can completely change the dynamics of your social interactions. Imagine a character named Sarah. She's a talented but introverted graphic designer. She struggles to connect with her colleagues and feels like an outsider. Her old paradigm was to work harder, take on extra projects, and hope her work would speak for itself. But it wasn't working. She still felt isolated. After learning about the favor paradox, Sarah decides to try a different approach. Instead of offering to help Mark, a senior developer she admires, she goes to his desk and says, "Mark, I know you're great with user experience. I'm struggling a bit with the flow of this app layout. Could you take 2 minutes and give me your gut reaction?" Mark, who had previously only offered polite nods to Sarah, stops what he's doing. He feels respected. He looks at her design, gives a few smart suggestions, and they have a short but productive conversation. For Sarah, she got valuable advice. But something more important happened in Mark's mind. He had just invested 2 minutes and his expertise into Sarah. His brain started the rationalization process. I helped her. She respects my opinion. She seems like a serious and friendly designer. The next week, in a team meeting, when Sarah presented an idea, Mark was the first to voice his support. A small bond had been formed. Sarah had shifted from being invisible to being a respected colleague, not by giving more, but by strategically allowing someone else to invest in her.
Understanding the theory is one thing. Applying it effectively is another. Here is your 3-step blueprint for turning the favor paradox into a practical skill. Before you act, you need a strategy. Get a notebook or open a new document. For the next week, identify 1 to 3 people in your life with whom you'd like to improve your relationship. This could be a coworker, a neighbor, or an acquaintance. Next to each name, answer 3 questions. What knowledge, skill, or opinion do they possess that I genuinely admire or am curious about? E.g., their taste in music, their gardening skills, their knowledge of a specific software. What is a small request, taking no more than 5 minutes of their time, that I could make related to that? E.g., could you recommend a band similar to band name? Or what kind of fertilizer do you use on your tomatoes? When and where would be the most natural and appropriate time to make this request? E.g., during a coffee break, at the end of a meeting, via a quick message. This phase takes you from a vague idea to a concrete and sincere plan of action. Once you have your plan, it's time to execute. Follow 3 golden rules. Keep it small. The request must be incredibly minor. The goal is to create an easy psychological win for them, not a burden. Be sincere. Frame the ask with genuine respect for their expertise or opinion. Start with phrases like, "I know you're great at X," or "I really value your perspective on Y." Be specific. Don't ask a generic, "Can you help me?" Ask a specific, "Can you show me the keyboard shortcut for X function in Excel?" Once they've helped you, you move to the most critical phase. Their favor was the first action. Your thanks is the action that completes the psychological loop. Don't just say thanks. Make it specific and show the impact. For example, "Thank you so much for that book recommendation. I've started it and am really enjoying it." Or, "That Excel tip saved me so much time today. I really appreciate it." This validates their help, reinforces their brain's decision that you were worth helping, and closes the loop on a positive note, opening the door for future interactions. You've turned a microtransaction into a genuine point of connection.
We began with an 18th century story about Benjamin Franklin and his rival. But this lesson transcends history. It gets to the very core of how we form relationships. The old paradigm tells us we have to earn affection. It turns us into anxious givers, always feeling like we have something to prove. But the favor paradox gives us our power back. It shows us that connection isn't a one-way street. It's built on mutual respect, on small moments of help and gratitude. By allowing someone to invest in you, you're not just getting help, you're giving them a gift, the opportunity to see themselves as generous, helpful, and competent. You are creating a situation where you both win. So the next time you want to build a connection, don't just ask, "What can I do for them?" Ask yourself a more powerful question. How can I genuinely create an opportunity for them to invest a small piece of themselves in me? That is the path to empowered connection. Now, we want to hear from you. Reflect on this. Has there ever been a time in your life when asking for a small favor unexpectedly changed a relationship for the better? Share your story in the comments below. Your stories are the most powerful evidence of this paradox in action. And if you found this video enlightening, hit the like button and subscribe to Psych Blueprint for more psychological strategies to master your life. Thank you for watching. And remember, sometimes the best way to build a bridge is to let someone else hand you the first brick.